Welcome to this special Roads Australia webinar, Understanding and Applying for the RA Fellowship Program. For those who don't know me, my name is Roy Christie and I am the Director of Policy here at RA. I want to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. We'd also like to thank the RA patrons, Arcadis, GHD, DPB contractors, MEC, Oricon and ARIC. The RA Fellowship Program is highly sought after. Every year we have many more applicants than positions available. In this webinar, we hope to explain what the Fellowship Program is and provide some advice on how to put your best application into that process. The RA Fellowship Program is a unique mentoring initiative that matches industry up-and-comers with some of the most experienced senior leaders in the Australian infrastructure sector. The program provides opportunities and encouragement for the next generation to develop leadership skills, build strong networks and stay engaged in our industry. Since its inception in 2015, fellowship status has become highly coveted with the yearly intake limited to around 40 fellows. This webinar is an opportunity for potential applicants to ask questions to some very qualified people who have been through the program and are now part of the selection committee. With me today to provide the answers to your questions are two very successful graduates of the RA Fellowship Program, Stuart Cook, Transport Lead Queensland, BGNE, and Chair of the Future Leaders Committee for Roads Australia, and Verity Turner, Environment Planning and Compliance Manager, WestConnex Transurban, Deputy Chair of the Future Leaders Committee for Roads Australia. I intend to begin with a few pre-planned questions, but there is an opportunity to ask your questions through the Q&A function on your screen. Please note this webinar is being recorded and we'll post the video along with the transcript for future reference. Now, Stuart, as Chair of the Future Leaders Committee, let's get stuck in. I'm going to start with you. What year did you do your fellowship and what did you know about RA and the program before you applied?
So I did mine in 2018. I had a fair involvement with RA prior to the program. So I was lucky enough to start coming along to the lunches and the John Shaw dinner around 2010. So I've probably been around it, maybe a bit later than that, maybe 13, but probably been around it for 5 or 6 years. And I guess I was fortunate in that I kind of knew what Roads Australia was about. Roads Australia was a different beast back then. It's changed a lot since, but I had some awareness. But certainly being involved in the fellowship really opened my eyes up to a bit more of the inner workings and what it's all about.
Thanks, Stuart. Verity, over to yourself. What about yourself? When did you do?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So I did the fellowship in 2019 and I was a bit different. I had really no idea about RA before the fellowship program. My CEO at the time tapped me on the shoulder and asked me if I wanted to apply. And to be honest, I was very apprehensive when I got tapped on the shoulder because at the time I thought it was all about networking and I hated networking. So I was a bit apprehensive, but I thought it would be a good opportunity to get me out of my comfort zone in terms of networking. And I guess I applied, I was successful, and it obviously opened up a huge amount more than just networking for me, which was amazing.
So let's get into the program itself. What does the program actually offer a successful applicant?
So I'm happy to have a first pass of that. So what it offers the applicant really is the program at its core is about leadership and personal development, I think. And a lot of the people we're finding in that 10 to 15 to 20 year part of their career, they've either taken one path that's very technically focused, or they're starting to take another part of their career that's very leadership focused. And sometimes we blur the lines between that. Sometimes we're in a technical role that's got a very much leadership aspect, but more often than not, your career's starting to take one path or another. And what the fellowship program does, it really provides that leadership training opportunity, and it will also match you up with a mentor. So you'll get matched up with a mentor. There'll be a titan of our industry, a CEO type level person generally, or a managing director or someone like that. And you'll get to spend a year working with them on yourself, your leadership skills, and you'll also get to build out your peer group significantly. So each year there's about 40 fellows. You'll develop really close relationships with those fellows. And you'll also build relationships with your mentor and then the other mentors as well. So at its core, it's a leadership program. It's a personal development program. It's a mentoring program.
Yeah,
Verity,
and I think I'd
anything to add? Sorry,
yeah, I'd
go.
probably add just around networking as well. I know for me in particular, I agree with everything Stu said, but I think it also is an opportunity to really build a strong network around you in with people that you probably wouldn't have a lot of access to in other parts of your job. And I think for me, it really opened my eyes up to the other parts of the industry that I probably wasn't really exposed to, and therefore the people that are in that part of the industry. And I think it also gives you a bit of a golden ticket in terms of attending RA functions, seeing what RA is like, and I guess in that seeing the other parts of the transport industry that are probably outside of your day job and your organisation necessarily.
And what are the benefits you've seen flow through to the organisations who sponsor their staff to attend the Fellows Program?
Look, I think some of the benefits are that, you know, they're getting these people to, I guess, have this mentoring session or this mentoring relationship with a mentor that's outside of their organisation, which I think is really invaluable in terms of either career advice or, you know, I guess a journey in terms of, you know, where you want to go. I think every mentoring relationship is different, but I think that kind of ability to have that mentor outside your organisation is invaluable for your organisation. And then I think also just the networking as well and the opportunities there, as well as those kind of building the leadership.
Anything extra, Stu?
Yeah, they also get to kind of, it's really your first step in building a bit of your profile for yourself in industry. I think that's a really important part. I think as you start to move through your career, as you become, I guess, more in these leadership positions, you will build a profile for yourself. And I think it's really that first step in that. So it enables an organisation, an individual within an organisation to start building their profile. And through that, it really helps the organisation who's sponsoring them's profile as well.
So what sort of efforts required of someone to actually attend the fellowship program? What would they be looking forward to having to do in the year?
Look, it's not a huge commitment, but at the same time, it is a commitment. So if I think about the fellows this year, they're probably committing, I'd say, I'm thinking off the top of my head here, but they're probably doing around 4 or 5 hours a fortnight, I would say. And that would be in terms of catching up with their mentor. They're doing an assignment at the moment. So that happens in the second half of the year. And we can talk more on that if anyone's interested, but we do an industry assignment as well. So there's a bit of commitment comes from that. But you really want to come into it comfortable in your own mind. And if you're putting someone up, supporting them as an organisation, comfortable that there is a time commitment in it, because it is a big program. You can get a heck of a lot out of it, but you do need to be prepared to put that time in to get that benefit. So you're having mentoring sessions, but before you're having those sessions, you're planning for them. Then you're having the session. Hopefully you're doing some of your own work to follow up. You're thinking about your next session. You're talking to your peers. You're going to these RA functions. Like, you really got to be in it and breathe it to get the full benefit out of it. And if that doesn't interest you, well, then I would suggest it's probably not the program for you.
Verity?
No, I'd agree with that. I think you're definitely going to get in what you will get out of it, what you put into it. And I think, as Stu said, there's an awful lot of things you can go to. You've got a golden ticket to go. So, you know, why wouldn't you make the opportunity within your sort of work-life balance to go and attend those things? Because, you know, you do have your day job, you have your personal life, you have everything else that goes along with it. You've got this project, etc. But you've also got this amazing opportunity to go and learn, and you need to take advantage of that to get the full experience, I think.
Thanks for that. We're about to move on to the process of the application, but just want to remind everyone that we are open to your questions at any time, just using the Q&A function that's at the bottom of your screen. So what are the minimum requirements for someone to consider when they are applying for this process?
Sure. Look, I think we aim at around people in that sort of 10 to 15 years experience, but we do, I don't think it's a hard and fast rule in terms of we usually have sort of more around 15 to 20 years of experience. I guess we look at people that are open to the mentoring and the career building opportunities, someone who's really willing to get involved. We want to know things like, I guess, what would you like your career to be in the very short sort of time? What's your current job? What mentoring sort of means to you? And I guess sort of things like what you think you could get out of the fellowship program in terms of your career, I guess, aspirations. And then I guess we also want to know some insights about you. You know, we want to know what your professional interests are. We want to know about you personally. And then we sort of look at, I guess, a geographic split around Australia. And we obviously want to get that sort of 50-50 gender balance as well.
Yeah, there's going to be two kind of applicants. Some are going to seek out the program, like I did. I knew about it and I sorted it out, and that's one. And then the other type will be like Verity, where you get tapped on the shoulder. And I think it's the ones who get tapped on the shoulder that we really encourage to have a good think about what is this and what you might want to do as part of it. Because you've obviously been tapped on the shoulder for a reason. You're generally an excellent candidate. And if you can kind of communicate through your submission what it is you might want to get out of it yourself around that leadership, personal development, growth, opening yourself up to networking, that really helps us understand who's going to be best suited for the program.
Yeah.
So there's a need for managers' approval of an application, or a business's strong approval for applicants for their selection process.
Absolutely, but I think also more than that, your manager and your workplace needs to be really supportive and on board with this, because it is a time investment as well as a money investment for your company. But you know, you need to be able to get the most out of it. You need to be able to attend the functions. You need to be able to, you know, input into the group research project. And you need to have the time invested into that. And we're not suggesting that you have to do all of that outside of your core business hours. So we are looking for organisations, and they are our member organisations, so they're very aware of the program and how valuable it is. But we are looking for those organisations to, I guess, give you the support to enable you to get the best out of your fellowship.
Anything extra, Stu?
No, I think that covers it pretty well. Yeah, there's a time commitment there. It's just really about the more we can understand what it is that you're after, the more we can understand from an organisation what you'd like from your candidates, the better.
So is it just the engineers, the project directors that sort of get selected for this project? Verity, you come from a different engineering background.
Yeah, I'm not an
engineer.
Yeah,
what sort of roles do we accept?
Yeah, I'm not an engineer or a project manager. And I think, to be honest, we really look at a good split of roles. I think the benefit of having that cohort is to have a huge varied, I guess, workforce involved in it, in terms of, you know, you don't all need to be a contractor. You could be private sector, you could be public sector. We've got a lot of people in there from a communications background. I mean, I'm a town planner from, you know, my original trade. So I think the more varied the application in the applications, the better, because I think when it comes time to doing the group projects in particular, it's really useful to have that kind of input from all different parts of the industry. But also you want to grow your network, not with just people who are in your organisation or in your, you know, neighbouring, I guess, exact skill sets of you. So the whole purpose is to grow your network and to grow your leadership skills. And you're only going to do that when you've got a really good cohort of people around you that are coming from a varied background and career profile.
Verity raises a cool point. One of the big positives of Roads Australia, and one of the things you'll get a lot out of it the more you get involved, is the variety of different groups within the organisation. So if you're an engineer, you're part of Engineers Australia. If you're a contractor, you might be part of the Contracting Association in your state. If you're a consultant, you might be part of Consult Australia. If you belong to a government body, you might be doing some work with Engineers Australia, but if you're an engineer, you don't have a home. But one of the real positives of RA is it brings all those groups together. And I think, when we do these assessments, we are trying to pick the best candidates, and we might touch on this a bit later in terms of specifically what we're looking at, but we are also looking at that mix, making sure we get enough contractors, making sure we get enough consultants, making sure we get enough clients. I think this year we've even had some people from plant hire companies. I know Amazon's a new client. So the more RA grows, the more diversity of that client base they're getting, the more powerful this program is going to be, because it's those relationships you make in those industries that are adjacent, but maybe not right in what you do, that really help you in your later career. So it's a real positive to think about as well. So I guess back to Reese's original question, I'm an engineer, so I think we're the greatest people in the world, but we really do seek out that variety in terms of that cohort.
Thanks, Stu. There's be a lot more detail regarding the application process on the RA website if you're looking for some detailed answers regarding what your application should be when it's due by. I highly recommend you look at that. Well, we've got these two experts who will also be part of the judging panel. Who else is on the judging panel, and what are their backgrounds?
We've got one of the experts with us, so we got Royce. So Royce will be on the judging panel. So what's your background, Royce?
My background, I was just trying to be a bit humble there, but I have a public policy background in government, commercial, and all sorts of other weird things as well too. So I'm going to be the strange cat within the room that doesn't actually, live and breathe transport. So if you're a strange cat, then definitely put your application in, because that'll be the one I spot. Verity, do you know some of the other judging panel that we've got coming on?
Yeah, look, I believe we've got the CEO of Roads Australia who's coming on board, and I think there's some other RA staff who get involved, as well as Stu and I, who are on the judging panel. So we're obviously leading the Future Leaders Committee and past fellows as well. So I think,
and then Michael B. We can't forget Michael B. So he's the immediate past president. He's had a huge career, really impressive guy. So it's a good panel, diverse panel. You won't be judged harshly if you're not an engineer, because it's more than just engineers on the panel. Yeah, that's us.
Well, before we step to a bit more about how we judge, we've got a question that just popped up for both Verity and Stuart. What was the most surprising thing you learned or experienced with a fellowship? Great question.
It is a good question. I'll go first. I think for me, I touched on it a little bit at the beginning, and people that have heard me speak recently probably heard this, but I really, really hated speaking to people that I didn't know. I really, really didn't understand. I wanted to grow my career and my network, but I didn't know how to. I would literally go to networking events and I would take a whole bunch of mates from West Connects, and I wouldn't talk to a single person other than the people I brought with me. And I then came back and thought, why am I not growing my network? I really don't know. And I literally went to these events, forced myself to go out of my comfort zone, started meeting people, started realizing that we actually have really interesting things to talk about within the industry and without, and that you've got these connections to these people. You just need to learn how to grow your connections in your networks. And I think for me, the most surprising thing is just the experiences that I've had coming out of Roads Australia. For me, I guess it's the networking and meeting the people and seeing sort of how you can give back into the industry through networking, et cetera, as well.
And I guess for me, like I've been around the industry my whole life. My granddad built bridges, so I've always been real passionate about the industry itself. But and through that, I've kind of fanboyed a number of the, I guess, important people in our industry. I'm a Queenslander, so guys like Neil Scale, our past DG up here, guys like Graham Newton, who's at Cross River Rail. I got to meet those sort of people to the point where I can now walk up to them and have a conversation. And I absolutely hero worship them before and seen them as a deity and wouldn't even talk to them. I'd avoid them if I seen them because I would just be scared of them. And to think that you can go through a program and 12 months later come out and have personal relationships with people like this is just outstanding. It's outstanding for your confidence. You realize that these people that you're in the room with are just other people. You get to know, I guess, what they like to do on the weekend, what their favorite type of coffee is, where they like to go fishing, all these obscure things you'd never think of. You humanize these people, and it just is so helpful in your career to have that. It's not really about saying that I know so-and-so and rub shoulders with them. It's just about giving you the confidence to interact with them as another human being, and really takes you from being I guess a shy young person in the industry to gaining those, I guess, first steps in your confidence as an individual.
You get that ability to be able to, I think the phrase in politics used to be, tell truth to power. You feel comfortable expressing your own opinion amongst people who you once considered too powerful to actually, my opinion would not be worthy of them, sort of thing. So you start feeling that comfort. Yeah. We've got a question here from Alexander as well too. Alexander's asking about the two candidates per firm, one male, one female, as to whether there's a disadvantage for large organisations because of that rule. With 150 member organisations in Roads Australia and only 40 positions up for grabs, I don't think that disadvantage is necessarily that. I think it's the large membership base. Anyone else's opinion?
Oh, look, it's a tough program to get into. So regardless, like, you're going to need to get through your organisation, but then you also need to get through all the other organisation. So if you're not going to get through your organisation, like the cold hard truth of that is you're probably not going to get into the program. The program is intentionally small, and we really try and keep that cohort tight. We don't intend on broadening it out because we want to make it exclusive. It's an important thing to get onto. It's something that you should be extremely proud if you're nominated. If an organisation asks you to express interest in it, it's something you should be proud about and continue to express interest in. So I wouldn't let that deter you. If you don't get nominated this year, well, there'll be another cohort next year. The chair won't be as good next year, but there'll be another cohort. But yeah, I would really encourage you to keep asking.
Did you want to add to that at all, Verity?
Not
Move
sure
on to the next question.
Yeah, let's move on.
How much time should I spend on an application?
Yeah, look, that's a good question. I probably spent a fair amount of time on my application because I obviously didn't know much about RA before I applied. I think the questionnaire, we've tried to really simplify it in the last couple of years to really get to the crux of sort of what we're trying to get to know about our applicants that come into it. So I think we've taken a lot of the questions out of it that we probably didn't have a lot of relevance to sort of placement on the fellowship program itself. But I mean, you need to, I don't know in terms of hours how much time, but you do need to spend a fair amount of time on it in terms of being able to actually give some detailed questions. And then I guess, you know, it's always helpful if your organisation can give some kind of support to your application as well. But it's not intended to be, you know, War and Peace, the application process either. I'm not
short
sure.
and sharp. Like, I mean, it needs to be short, sharp, to the point.
Yeah.
We will get probably 100+ applications to review this year. So you need to get your point across. You need to stand out. In terms of how much effort you need to put into it, for me, this opportunity really changed my career, really stepped it up. I've got opportunities that I never would have got if I hadn't have made my way onto the fellowship. So think about it in that way. Like, yeah, like you might spend 80 hours on it, let's say, as an extreme, but if that changes your career, it's going to be worth it. So look, it's up to the individual, but I guess back to my point that it's an exclusive program and it's sought after, there'll be stiff competition. So have a think about that.
Don't spend 80 hours on it.
So while we're on that, what sort of process do you take when you're looking at the applicants to shortlist and then take through to be successful?
So look, I think like I'll have a first crack at that. I think like that leadership is a intangible quality that some people that really shines out in some people and other people not so much. And we're really looking for that. We're really looking for those applications that stand out. So for me personally, I'm looking for someone who gets RA. I'm looking for someone who's demonstrated that leadership potential already, has got the ambition and desire to continue that, who sees value in the mentoring program, who has some idea, I guess, about what they want to get out of that program, what benefit they think it will yield for them. Because if someone can't see that, well, then someone else who can may be better placed on the program. So they're the type of things we look at. It is very subjective, but I can say from experience, having done this for 2 years now, when we go through the application, some will stand out and others won't. And it'll be those people who have that I guess that get what we're talking about, that have that, I guess, that love and passion for the industry that really shines through.
And by leadership, you don't just mean people management, do you?
Oh, 100% no. Like as I said before, I'm a technical person at my core. Someone could be a technical director of a huge team and be very much showing leadership roles. It's not leadership as in a manager. I think management and leadership are two very different things. So please don't shy away. Like if you're a technical director, or if you're a technical lead, or if you're a senior engineer, it doesn't matter. If you're a project engineer, like it's about leadership, not about management. And they're two very different things.
Verity, what do you look for in a successful applicant?
Look, I agree with what Stu said, and I think it's all about sort of demonstrating that passion for what you want to get out of the program, because I think also the program does extend beyond the year in some ways. You know, that you become part of the RA Fellowship alumni out of this, and there's an enormous amount of opportunity that you can have, you know, once you're associated with RA. But you know, I agree with Stu. We really want to see some of that passion come out in terms of your leadership and your, you know, your goals for how you're going to match with a mentor, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I mean, I agree with what Stu said.
I'll just add to that my uninformed opinion that comes into this is that I'm looking for applicants that are showing their passion that can also produce a clear line of thought as well too, that they demonstrate that through the application process to clarity of application. There is a word limit. It varies depending on the answer. If you use up the entire word limit trying to describe something, then that might be, you might want to rethink what you're actually saying and see if you can say it in a clearer, more succinct way and still get your message across. Let's move on to another question from our individual. Sharon has asked, the outcomes from the fellowship assignment, are they taken any further within the industry and within policy? And if yes, are there any examples? What are the projects that you two worked on?
Look, my project was all about capacity constraints in the industry, which I think is an ongoing issue and certainly part of the focus of this year's topic. I think the answer to that question is yes. We select the topics for the group project based on feedback that we hear from the agencies at the beginning of the year when they present to the RA board, and we then develop the topic in consultation with Royce and his team to make sure that it's aligned with RA's policy agenda, etc. So it is very much a topic that's aligned, you know, with what the transport agencies are, their issues are, and also what the RA policy agenda is. In terms of where it's taken, so you'll do the research project over about a few months, I think it's 4 or 5 months. You'll then present it to the end of year fellowship workshop, which does often involve some of the RA board and some of the RA staff at that presentation. And the winning group from both the project and the presentation will then present to the full RA board as well. And all of the projects get published up on the RA website. But they also then get fed back in through Royce's team. And maybe, Royce, you can explain a little bit about how you sort of take some of the outcomes from there.
Yeah, sure. But first, Stu, what about yourself?
Yeah, so I think that's all correct. Last year we did one on sustainability, and the outcomes were extremely well received by the board. As I already said, they asked us to present to the wider board that presentation. So I think even getting your exposure to that board is outstanding. The board is built up of generally, I guess, the heads of each road authority plus key consultant and contractors. So even getting in front of that board is an outstanding personal opportunity. I remember back in my first year on the program, once I joined the committee, we did one on mental health. That was really well received. And it was that well received that the second year we continued on that piece of work and then implemented those mental health programs into workplaces and see how they went. So that was an example of where an assignment was done. The winning assignment was kind of picked for the next year to continue on and implement in the workspace. And I know a number of those workplaces are still implementing those mental health programs. So definitely, I think a number of the assignments have lived a long life. Hopefully this year's assignment's generating some really interesting ideas. I'd love to see them get picked up by industry and run with. So they definitely don't die a death. Having said that, don't be too, scared by the assignment. The assignment at its core is an opportunity for you to work closely with 5 or 6 of your different colleagues and build a really strong network over the course of 6 months. It is not intended to be an academic paper that we judge you on. It is something we use, but it's as much as an opportunity to get your peers as it is to do an assignment itself.
Thanks. And from the RA side, the projects are decided based upon what RA wants to work on as well too. If you want to influence, there is a question here asking, do they get a chance to influence what the project is? Not really. It's because Stu Verity and I have probably already decided what next year is going to be already when Verity steps up to the chair. So it will be something that will be relevant to the wider RA community and the RA policy objectives that are coming through from a board level. So hopefully that answers your questions about the projects. The results of those do live on within RA and within the wider industry because they do have a very large impact upon the way the industry behaves and lives and interacts with the community as we go on. If we move back to a few more questions that are coming in from the audience, this is one from an earlier one, which we've sort of touched upon, but let's make sure we get the complete answer. Is the program suitable for individuals who are just new to a leadership role?
Yes, I think so. Again, it would just depend how much experience they've got. So if they've got a long and varied, I guess, say if they've got, say, 10 or 15 years of experience and they're just starting to come into a leadership role now, but through that past role, they've been demonstrating leadership and they've got an interest in leadership, then certainly, I think it's a great opportunity for that. The whole leadership role is a thing, again, I think that sometimes can get confused with a management role. Sometimes I think if someone's taken on a management role, it's usually because they've been demonstrating leadership for a good while anyway. So I wouldn't be too worried about what your role is. It's probably more about, can you show areas where you've been demonstrating leadership to date, and can you show a passion to continue to do that? Do you have is a mentoring program going to help you with that? And if that ticks all the boxes, then you could very well be successful. I certainly wouldn't let your number of years in a current role concern you. If you've only got 3 years in industry and you're starting to managing a group of 2 or 3, then it's probably not for you. But it just depends. It's based on the individual.
Yeah, I agree.
Excellent. Another quick question: does the program involve any travelling?
Look, it does involve a little bit of travelling. There is certainly some travel that we want everyone to do in terms of attending the mid-year and the end-of-year fellows workshops. They're generally held in Sydney, Brisbane or Melbourne, and RA will organise, your travel around there. So we do definitely want you to attend in person. We want you to network. We want you to meet the other fellows in both your year side of you at the end of your function, and obviously attend in terms of, I guess, getting the most out of those workshops for the couple of days that they run.
The next one's a bit of a process question. It's probably more for myself. Is there a formal feedback session if you're not successful? If you're unsuccessful, there's not really a formal feedback. There are a significant number of applications that are unsuccessful. If we were to do that, it would take up way too much time. However, if your organisation believes that you were a strong applicant and you failed to get through, we're happy to answer the questions that they might put to us about the why and the where sort of thing as we go on.
You are also able to keep applying. It might just be that you didn't get through because we had a huge amount of people applicants come through, which we normally do, and obviously we've only got 40 spaces, so you're always able to reapply the next year as well.
Yeah, if you get to submit an application, you're really considered, I guess, the cream of the crop by your organisation. If unfortunately you don't make it through, I would really encourage you to try and apply again. But sometimes it can just be as disappointing as the fact that you were the 41st best person out of 80 or whatever, and you just didn't quite make the cut. It's challenging, but I guess that's again one of the reasons why this is such an important program, because it is constrained and exclusive.
Thanks for that. Now let's wrap up based around this last question, and let's talk about the great positives and the opportunities that could be done for someone 3 or 4 years, 5 years after they've completed their fellowship. Verity, let's start with yourself.
Sure. Look, I think there's the opportunity, as I said before, you become part of the RA alumni for their fellowship. And I think RA is a great organisation to keep in touch with, keep heavily involved in, and you can be as involved as you like. RA leans on their fellowship alumni for certain events, in terms of keynote speakers at some of the events, panels. We're always running panels at our sort of mid-year workshops, etc., where we draw upon our fellowship alumni and our mentor alumni as well. You could join the Future Leaders Committee like Stuart and I. We, co-hosted the John Shaw dinner this year, which was an amazing opportunity that we were afforded by RA. But other than that, there's just that alumni, there's networking, there's continued events that you can go to. And I think once you build up that network and you've made those connections, you'll continue to build on them through your attendance at RA events. And again, you can get out of RA as much as you want to put into RA once you've finished your fellowship program as well. I think there's amazing opportunities if you're the type of person that would go and seek them out.
Stuart, last push.
Yeah,
Would
and
you
I
like to
guess
say?
so. For me, I think there's all the stuff that Verity spoke about. From a personal career perspective, the mentoring really helped me personally shape how I kind of have approached the last. So I did my program, how many years ago it was, 5 or 6. I shaped the last 5 or 6 years of my career has really been shaped by what I learned during that time. So some really focused leadership training on myself and mentoring really helped me accelerate my career through those periods. So I feel like a lot of the opportunities I've had career-wise through that period have come from the program. As I said, the network I've got to build and grow has been outstanding. I've made friends all around the country. Like, it's just outstanding that I can literally go to an RA function anywhere in Australia now and know people, and it's that in itself is just so helpful for work. It's not like the social side of it's awesome, you got friends wherever you go, but with work, like I can work on a project anywhere in the country and I'll come across people I know. Like that, the value to that's intangible. You get to know the RA staff, which is excellent. I've made friends within the committee. Like the opportunities really are endless. Like I volunteer my time to do the role in the committee, and I wouldn't do it unless it's something I was really passionate about. So yeah, hopefully my passion comes through and there's proof in the pudding in that, and that it's something that I think is genuinely important and beneficial for you guys to do, and would really encourage you to get involved and give it everything, because like it's been something really important for me.
And I think you would hear that most people who have gone through the fellowship committee would be like Stu and I, in that it's been a game changer in some way, shape or form in driving their career in some, element or aspect of it, whether it's the mentoring, the networking, the confidence, the whatever it is. I think you would be hard pressed to find someone that didn't share a similar story to Stu and I in terms of what the fellowship's done to their career.
Thank you to Verity and to Stuart for their time today, and thank you all for joining us. If you have any further questions regarding the fellowship application process or the RA fellowship program as a whole, please have a look at the RA website and reach out to Felicity Lampert, RA's Executive Programs and Events. For now, that's it for us. Thank you very much, and have a good day all. See you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.